Hello classmates, here we are, our last chapter, our last week, our last video lecture, and of course you have your textbook right there and something to write on and something to write with. We are starting chapter 15 on page 458, and just a word of warning, I did have a lot of fun here along the way. Now, when we're talking about global companies, what does that mean? Well, basically it means it's a company that has a presence in more than one country. And why would any company do that? Well, there are lots of resources in other countries that are possibly untapped. And of course, there are problems, and those that there are other currencies, other languages, other legal requirements, other laws and regulation. There are lots and lots of other problems to deal with. Global expansion is expensive. Getting together and working with some other entity there. Okay, that's, of course, as you know, working with others is always something that is more involved and takes longer, etc. Finally, the direct investment part. For example, the BMW factory in Spartanburg, I think it's North Carolina. So they actually built from scratch a huge building there and the assembly line and everything. That means that BMW committed a lot of resources to do that. Next up, what are the steps of the marketing decisions there? As you can see, and it's in our book, here we go. It is a marathon, not a sprint, to do this. And here's the fun part. These are slightly adjusted ads for a Drakkar. Interesting, isn't it? And as always, you are invited to stop the video and look at the images more. Now, trade barriers, and those have been in the news very much lately, right? That means if we have a trade barrier, that is usually something financial. And that means that if we want to sell something in another country, that country says, well, you can do that, but you're going to pay us some money. So they are called tariffs and or duties. That's just the word for it. Another one that is not so much financial is that there could be quotas. For example, quota on steel, only so many million tons of steel does the US accept coming from China. Global companies not always welcome in the host economy. So there may be all kinds of other things that will be developed just in order to make it harder for a company to do business there. And of course, currently our federal government is doing that with other countries who they want to export here. Check out these. Pretty interesting. I just also found out that McDonald's actually has a special menu for the breaking of fast during Ramadan. I didn't know that. And how to make this thing easier. There is the World Trade Organization, and that was established in 1995. Just all kinds of initiatives to make things easier and to have countries talk to each other. And then there are areas where they're called free trade areas or zones. And the interesting thing there is that basically the borders don't exist. So when speaking from my own experience with the European Union, something gets manufactured in Greece and you can put it on a truck and deliver it up to Holland, and there are no duties, there are no taxes, there are no tariffs anywhere. You can just drive through and unload. The same thing we do have here in North America. Between, of course, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And the current federal government is working to replace that. It's a slightly changed agreement that they call USMCA. Now the leaders of the three countries have already signed off on it, but the legislature, meaning the lawmakers, have not. So it's not active yet. Let's look at some more examples. Interesting, isn't it? And what makes a country specifically attractive? Well, of course, having the infrastructure, either um, for example, transportation, but also what are there enough people for us to work there? What about the income? Can we actually sell our product in there? Do people have enough money, or do we adjust the price low enough or high enough so that it makes financial sense to us, considering our target market there in that other country? And of course, then there's always the attitude. Remember the French fries suddenly being called freedom fries? That silly attitude stuff. What about cash transactions? And there's, of course, bartering. And I also would like to bring up bribes, because any U.S. company, no matter where the company does business, is not allowed to either provide bribes or accept bribes. And these are from our textbook, IKEA, or IKEA as I call it, and the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, yes, yes. Now this really speaks to this iceberg phenomenon. I really love this image. These are the things that we see when we are engaged in a culture different from ours. However, there are lots more unseen and even deep cultural things. So the visible culture could be the way the houses are built, the way the traffic is flowing, and what people are wearing. But then unseen cultures are thought processes, traditions, and then there's the deep culture, which can involve language development and all kinds of other things. So business communication, our Business 250, really gets into that, one of my favorite classes to teach. Now, what makes a company decide on a market? Well, I say that it's a process, but what it really comes down to is, what is the potential there? Is this a good fit? And it goes from the big thing to look at to the detail, which also includes a culture fit. And last, here we go. These are the two varieties of how companies can offer their products in the global market. Standardized, meaning same product, same marketing message, no matter where we're expanding to or exporting to. And then the other one is adapted, meaning depending on the country and on the culture we're marketing for, we are going to adjust our messages, maybe even our products. And so far I have shown you images of lots of products that are developed because of the adapted global marketing. Maybe you remember the Mexican Coke is slightly different in flavor from American Coke, so that is another adapted global marketing thing. And of course, it's more expensive to be adaptive, right? Here is one of my favorite images about this. It's really interesting how the Worcester and pickled onion. Now it doesn't sound like caviar. Look at that. I just want to go there and try all those flavors. So in conclusion, a global firm is a company that does business in more than one country. In addition to the US, outside of the US would be the way we look at it. And the process of getting there is, you have to have an export department that deals with all the logistics and the legals. Of course, you have that international division, something over there in the other country, and maybe even working with other companies there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, classmates, Go work hard. And next up is, of course, this video lecture quiz.